Hello everyone. In this video, I will give you a short instruction about how to prepare your group project. So remember, the central idea of the group project is to propose an experiment on decision making. In the class, we have 40 people in total, and we have already divided all the 40 people into groups of 5, and we have 8 groups in total. Each of the group will work on one of the 3 topics out of your choice. So the group project is divided into 2 parts. One is the group presentation, and the other one is the group paper. The group presentation you will give is to propose the experiment, obviously about decision making. So how does that look like? So you will divide your group presentation into multiple parts, multiple elements. So the first one is, what is the motivation? So why you are doing this study, why you are proposing this study, why it is interesting, okay? So basically that means what is the research background and what is missing in the current status of the literature. So if you read a paper, you read the introduction part, usually the authors will summarize what is known already, and then they will say what is not known yet. And then this is the pinpoints of the study design. So then after summarizing or after figuring out what is missing in the literature, you basically will have to ask the research question. So then you write down your research question, right? And then based on your research question and based on previous literature, even though in the current research question, this is not known yet, but how would you like to get to the hypothesis? You will have to depend on the previous findings. And then you use previous finding to formulate your hypothesis. So here you will have to give a specific and concrete testable hypothesis. And the next step is to test the hypothesis. You need to design experiments. And then you will describe basically how does the experiment look like? And also which method is considered. So which method here means all those neuroscientific technologies that we have mentioned in the previous lecture. For example, the fMRI, EEG, MEG, eye tracking, or those physical effort, the dynamometer, the squeeze bar, right? And also mouse tracking. So everything that is related to decision making, in the topic of decision making, up to you to use. It depends on which question you would like to ask or answer, and then choose the appropriate research method. And regardless of the research technique or method, behavior is always measured. So you should always measure behavior, and on top of that, you measure something else, okay? And in terms of the experiment, we talked about in the second lecture. So define what is your dependent variable, what is your independent variable or variables if you have multiple, and also declare what kind of experiment you would like to design in terms of is it will be a within subject design, or will it be a between subject design, and how you would like to realize a randomization, right? Or for example, also pseudo randomization or Latin square designs are up to you. So you have to be a little bit more careful regarding the confound variables. So you do not want confound variables. You would like to have a carefully designed experiment that will answer your question, okay? So here what you measure is basically the dependent variable. And lastly, you will also have to describe the anticipated results. So based on the previous literature and based on your hypothesis, what experiments would you anticipate, okay? Good. And during the presentation, you will have 15 minutes to present and followed by 5 to 10 minutes of questions, mostly from me, but I encourage also the audience to ask questions. And for your presentation, as I said, there will be 5 people in each group, and I really encourage each person in the group to speak. So how to divide who is speaking of what is up to you, but really everyone should speak so that I can give you the grades, okay? So the group paper is related to the group presentation. You will basically write down what you have presented. So the idea is to write down your proposal and then also integrate the feedback from your presentation. And I have already uploaded a template. So template is basically like a table, and it divides all those parts into like background and research question and the methods. You will basically follow the procedure to fill in the group paper. Okay. So how I would envision this group project is that each group, you should already more or less starting, you should already start meeting each other online basically, and to brainstorm which kind of experiment you would like to propose. And then you brainstorm and then you narrow down multiple interests out of your choice, and then you have to make a decision. So which is the one that you are really interested in? And then you go deeper with that idea. And you could already answer those questions by this structure, and you could also already write down the outline of the group paper. So don't do the group paper at the very late stage, otherwise time is limited and you will feel stressed. So start already now the draft, so the outline, and then you go to the presentation, you present it to the audience, and you will receive feedback. And after it is completed, so after the presentation is completed, after you have got the feedback, you can then write down the full version of your group paper, okay? This is how I envision that. And how to contact your group members, you can use Moodle or WhatsApp or email, okay? Up to you, it's totally up to you. So just to remind you, we have 3 topics: risky decision-making and intertemporal choice. Intertemporal decision-making, 2 groups will work on that, and the 3 other groups will work on motivation and emotion in decision-making, and the last 3 groups will work on social decision-making. Good. And now I will give you a rather simple and perhaps oversimplified example of how I would like to design or propose one experiment. So obviously, I will have to divide my proposal into those multiple parts. And first of all, the background. So let's say I'm interested in risky decision-making. I go into the literature, I found a phenomenon, and it says, well, researchers have shown that attention plays an important role in decision-making. Okay, and then here I will also have to add some references and citations. So this is known. This is what is known already. And what is not known is then the research question. I would like to know, how does attention affect risk-taking behavior? So the idea is that, okay, attention is important in decision-making, but how important is attention in risky decision-making is not known. So this is what I'm interested in, okay? And then I would like to formulate research hypotheses. Hypothesis, so you would like to also ask yourself, how does hypothesis differ from research question? So hypothesis, one way that distinguishes from research question is the hypothesis, they have directions. So the research question is, I have no idea how attention modulates risk-taking behavior, but the hypothesis might be, well, if something is being paid more attention to, will this increase risk-taking or decrease risk-taking? So you will have to consider the directionality when you formulate research hypothesis. So in this example, I hypothesize that attention would increase risk-taking behavior, and assuming that this assumption, this hypothesis is taken from a previous literature, okay? And the next step is I would like to test this hypothesis by designing one experiment. So simply, I propose a risky decision-making paradigm, and I ask participants to choose from two choice options. One is a safe option, the other one is a risky option. And then which method I would like to use? I will use behavioral task, behavioral measurement. I will also eye tracking because I am interested in attention. How would I know attention? How would I like to measure attention? One way is to look at the eye track. One way is to look at the eye movement, to use eye tracker, to look at how much time the participant is spending on when they look at one choice option relative to the other. And I would also like to use some cognitive modeling because cognitive models, they open up a window to look at internal variables that is otherwise undetectable by using only behavioral analysis. Okay? Good. And measurement here basically means dependent variable. I will measure the fixation time, so how long the participant is staring at something, and the decision. Do they choose the risky option or the safe option? Anticipated results. So it is the result I anticipate before I even run the experiment. So I anticipate that risk gambles will be more preferred if they are looked at longer. So this is the reason why I say it is a little bit stupid example. It is because, well, if there are two options, one is looked at much longer than the other, it's not so surprising that the one that is looked longer will be chosen more likely. Okay, so this is the idea. But you get what I mean. So this is even though stupid, but actually quite complete research proposal. Okay, good. So besides the text you write down, you might also have to prepare some figures. So especially when you are introducing the experimental task, the paradigm. So this one, because I'm interested in risky decision making, I show them the risky gambles. This one is a safe option, 100% to get 20 euro, and this one is a risky option, 33% to get 57 euro. I give this to the participants. I ask them to make a choice. Meanwhile, their eye movements is recorded by the eye tracker. Good. And if you use some experimental paradigms in the previous literature, they'll basically just take the figures from their paper. Don't spend too much time on photoshopping everything. Great. And then here on the right-hand side, I show you the anticipated results. So on the x-axis is the gaze duration, the fixation time, and on the y-axis is the probability of choosing the gamble. How likely the participant is choosing the risky option. So here I show a simple positive relationship. When an option is looked at longer, then it is more likely to be chosen. Okay. So here, this one is actually some fake data I just randomly simulated with some known pattern that I have in mind. This is optional in your proposal. So if in your case, you could easily generate some fake data by using Excel or whatever, do it. But if it is actually complex, then maybe you don't have to spend too long to create this actually fake data, right? And the anticipated results will be even more challenging if you will propose a fMRI study. It is because you cannot really fake some brain images. So then don't really bother to do that. All right, and the last point I would like to highlight is the tense, the grammatical tense when you are writing your group paper. So from previous example, the previous seminar and previous group projects I received, so some groups, they wrote something like, we did this, we did that, the results showed this, we observed that, we found this, and blah, blah. So basically they use past tense, which is, in my opinion, not appropriate because they have never done this study, and you cannot really write down the past tense, even though I know they would like to mean as if they have done that already, but this is not ideal. So the goal of the group project is to propose something. This is a proposal. Imagine you are a researcher, you send the proposal to a funding agency. You apply for money, right, to fund you. And anything is in the future tense. So what is more appropriate, at least in my opinion, is that you will say, well, we will run this study. We will recruit, for example, 40 participants, and we will test this and that hypothesis, and we anticipate the result will be look like this. The result will be look like that. So you could also say, if the result is like this, then the hypothesis will be confirmed. And if the result is if the result looks like some other way, you can also say, well, the hypothesis is falsified. So just basically describing everything in an open way, okay, in the future tense. And the anticipated results part is maybe a little bit confusing to read about, but not really, because the anticipated results will follow your hypothesis. And where does your hypothesis come from? It comes from previous literature. So if you have a solid line of reasoning, you have the literature, you have the hypothesis, then there is not too much variation in the way of how to describe your anticipated results. So that's my opinion, okay? Great, so that is the end of this short instruction for the group projects, and I hope everything is clear, and if not, feel free to email me. Thank you.